Marvin Holloway was 27 years old and had been working on an oil drilling site in Midland, Texas, for nearly 2 years. He started the job at 25, shortly after the birth of his son, Elijah. The position offered steady income and benefits, but required long hours and significant time away from home. His rotation followed a 2 weeks on, 1 week off pattern, which meant he was away from his family for most of each month. Marvin used his earnings to provide for his wife, Camille, and their child, who remained in East Austin. Camille Holloway, 25, stayed in a one-story duplex with Elijah. She did not work, did not own a car, and rarely left the house. Neighbors described her as quiet and mostly unremarkable. Her social interaction was minimal. Camille and Marvin had been together since high school and married young, at the age of 20. By 2021, they had been married for 5 years. According to text records and interviews, their relationship had grown increasingly strained due to Marvin's extended absences and Camille's sense of isolation. Marvin maintained regular communication during his time at the rig, typically calling Camille each evening after his shift. His text messages reflected a routine concern for Elijah, financial matters, and basic check-ins. There were no documented suspicions on Marvin's part regarding Camille's behavior during his time away. Camille, however, began forming a new pattern of interaction with the outside world initially through food delivery services. What began as routine takeout turned into frequent orders, sometimes multiple times per week. Records from the food delivery platform confirmed that one driver, Keyshawn Porter, 28, was repeatedly assigned to Camille's address over several months. Keyshawn was employed as a contract driver in the East Austin zone. His background included part-time delivery work, some past retail employment, and no known criminal history. According to statements later provided to law enforcement, his first encounters with Camille were uneventful. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. However, over time, Camille initiated longer conversations at the door. According to Keyshawn's sworn testimony, these conversations became flirtatious by the 3rd month. By the 4th month, Camille invited him inside. By the 6th, they were involved in a sexual relationship. All of this occurred during Marvin's time away. Keyshawn later claimed that he believed Camille was emotionally neglected and that their relationship was purely casual at first. However, text messages provided during the investigation indicate that Camille's intentions shifted over time. By late summer, Camille began bringing up her dissatisfaction with her marriage and her desire for a different life. She mentioned Marvin's life insurance policy in several conversations. The policy, issued through his employer, was valued at $750,000. Camille was listed as the primary beneficiary. She explained that, in the event of a work-related death, the payout process would be expedited. She emphasized that oil rig accidents were not uncommon and could easily be attributed to natural causes. Keyshawn initially dismissed her comments as venting or hypothetical, but according to investigators, Camille's tone became increasingly serious. She printed out forms related to life insurance claims and showed them to Keyshawn. She brought up the possibility of moving to Houston and starting fresh. She talked about launching a mobile food business and getting out of Austin for good. On one occasion in late August, Camille said the words, "What if he just didn't come home?" Keyshawn laughed, believing it was a dark joke. Camille then repeated the question more slowly and clearly. When he didn't respond, she referenced Marvin's daily thermos and asked what would happen if someone slipped something into it. In the weeks that followed, Camille returned to the topic multiple times. The statements became more detailed. She printed documents from the insurance company's website and showed them to Keyshawn. She referenced payout timelines, explained how accidental deaths processed faster, and reiterated that fatalities in the oil industry were rarely questioned. She began referring to Marvin's death in practical terms, how the claim would be filed, where the funds would go, how quickly they could leave Austin. She emphasized that they didn't need violence. "If it's an accident, it clears fast," she said. "People die on rigs every day." By early September, Camille escalated her behavior further. During one visit, she placed a small glass vial on the kitchen table and slid it toward Keyshawn. "I need you to give me something," she said. "He takes a thermos to work. Every day. Same one. Same time." Keyshawn asked what it was. Camille responded vaguely, saying it would be clean and leave no trace. She said it would just slow his heart down and that the oil company would classify it as an undetected health episode. According to Keyshawn, that was the moment he realized the situation could no longer be ignored. He left the house and, later that evening, contacted the Austin Police Department non-emergency line. He asked to speak with someone in investigations. The following morning, he was referred to the Special Investigations Unit and was scheduled for an in-person interview. The initial report was processed by 2 SIU detectives. Keyshawn provided a verbal and written statement detailing the affair, Camille's remarks, and the vial. He agreed to turn over his phone and granted access to his message history with Camille. Detectives reviewed text exchanges and confirmed that Camille had made repeated references to insurance, travel, and clean exits. While the most explicit conversations had occurred in person, the written record supported Keyshawn's claims of premeditated intent. The department made the decision to initiate a controlled operation. Keyshawn agreed to continue contact with Camille under direct police supervision. He was fitted with an audio recording device and briefed on all safety protocols. His movements were tracked, and surveillance was initiated at Camille's residence. The primary objective was to establish clear and irrefutable evidence of Camille's intent to solicit the murder of her husband. The next phase required coordination with Marvin Holloway, who had not yet been informed of the plot. On September 5th, detectives contacted Marvin's employer and requested an off-site meeting, citing the need for identity verification in connection with an unrelated investigation. Marvin met with 2 officers at a private office near the rig site. There, they disclosed the ongoing case. According to police notes from the interview, Marvin listened in silence as detectives explained the affair between his wife and the delivery driver, the proposal to poison him, and the content of Camille's conversations. When the briefing concluded, Marvin asked a single question: "Who is he?" Detectives declined to reveal Keyshawn's identity at that stage, citing procedural protocol. Marvin was initially non-reactive, then asked what the department needed from him. Detectives outlined a plan to stage a plausible death scenario and record Camille's response. Marvin agreed, on the condition that he could participate directly in the setup. He said, "Let her see my face. I want to know how far she'll go." After consulting medical personnel, the department proposed a sedation protocol that would induce a temporary unconscious state, simulating the appearance of death without harm to Marvin. Over the next 72 hours, the operation was organized. A vial containing a harmless saline mixture was prepared. Keyshawn would deliver it to Camille, claiming it was a cardiac-grade solution that would mimic the desired effect. Camille would then administer it through Marvin's thermos, believing it would go undetected during autopsy.
If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and won't cost anything, but it means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video.
The medical examiner's office was looped into the operation to arrange a secure facility and environment for Camille's upcoming identification of the body. All communication from this point forward was logged and documented. Officers remained in constant contact with Keyshawn. Marvin's employer was instructed to issue a false report of a workplace medical incident at the appropriate time. On the evening of September 9th, detectives confirmed that Camille sent a text message to Keyshawn: "I'm doing it tomorrow morning. After he leaves, I'll text." No other messages were sent that night. At 6:15 a.m. the next morning, Marvin Holloway prepared to leave for his scheduled shift. According to the established routine, Camille was awake with him, standing by the kitchen counter. Marvin was equipped with a thermos, which Camille had filled prior to his departure. There were no deviations in behavior reported. Camille kissed him on the cheek and told him, "Be careful out there." Marvin left the residence at approximately 6:45 a.m. Unknown to Camille, Marvin's departure point had already been coordinated with law enforcement. Instead of reporting to the rig site, Marvin drove to a predetermined meeting location in South Austin, where a unit of plainclothes officers was waiting. He surrendered his personal phone and vehicle and was transported in a separate, unmarked car to a secure facility outside of Travis County. There, under supervision by contracted medical personnel, he was administered a fast-acting sedative. The sedation protocol had been cleared by both legal and medical teams involved in the case. The dosage and duration were tightly controlled to produce a shallow breathing pattern, decreased heart rate, and reduced responsiveness sufficient to simulate a non-traumatic fatal event without causing long-term harm. The operation was scheduled to maintain this state for no more than 4 hours. At 2:03 p.m. that same day, Camille Holloway received a phone call from a number registered to the Chevron corporate office but rerouted through law enforcement systems. The caller identified himself as an HR representative from the company and informed her that Marvin had collapsed on site due to a suspected cardiac event. He stated that paramedics were unable to resuscitate him and that next of kin verification would be required by the medical examiner's office. The call was recorded and transcribed. Camille responded with what appeared to be authentic distress. She asked several times whether the caller was sure, then began crying audibly. When asked where to report for identification, she was told that Marvin had been transferred to the Bastrop County Medical Examiner's office. That evening, Camille arrived at the morgue by herself. A plainclothes officer posing as a morgue technician guided her into the viewing room, where Marvin was lying on a stainless steel table. He was dressed in his standard work attire. The lighting was adjusted to be dim but visible. His breathing was imperceptible. His skin tone, affected by the sedative, appeared pale. His eyes were closed. A sheet covered him from the chest down. No cosmetic alterations or trauma marks were used. The intention was to present a clean and undisturbed visual to make the scenario more believable. Behind the one-way glass, a team of officers observed Camille's response. She stood over Marvin's body for approximately 30 seconds without speaking. According to the officer present, she did not display signs of panic or uncertainty. After a pause, she nodded and said, "That's my husband." Her tone was calm. She was escorted out of the room without incident. The attending technician logged her confirmation in the record. Officers noted her demeanor as cooperative and composed. No further questions were asked at that time. As Camille exited the facility, surveillance followed her back to her residence. Marvin remained sedated for another 2 hours under the supervision of medical staff before being gradually brought out of the induced state. He was debriefed by officers and remained in protective custody overnight. At no point during this phase of the operation was Camille informed of the ruse. In the 24 hours following her visit to the morgue, Camille Holloway began the process of publicly mourning her husband. According to digital forensics collected later by law enforcement, the first notable activity was a social media post published at 8:42 a.m. on September 11, 2021. The post included a black and white photo of Marvin holding their son Elijah, taken several months prior. The caption read, "My world is gone." Over the course of the day, Camille replied to dozens of comments and condolence messages. She accepted meal donations through a local support app and updated her account with new contact details. At 11:26 a.m., she placed a phone call to the human resources line at Marvin's employer. The call was routed to a department employee who had been briefed in advance and instructed to act in a limited, non-disclosing capacity. Camille inquired about what happens next and asked where to submit death verification documents to begin the life insurance claim process. Phone records show that she then downloaded the required documents from the company's internal portal and printed the claim packet at a local print center. Around 2 p.m. surveillance teams were in place to monitor her movement but did not intervene. Investigators allowed Camille to proceed in order to further demonstrate intent. That evening, Camille sent a text message to Keyshawn Porter. It read, "It's done. Thank you." Keyshawn, working under continued police supervision, did not respond. He had been advised to suspend further communication while officers prepared for the arrest phase of the operation. At approximately 9:05 a.m. on September 13th, Camille was preparing to leave the house. Based on her online appointment confirmation, she had scheduled a notary visit to complete her insurance paperwork. Before she could exit, a knock came at the front door. According to officers on site, Camille opened the door wearing a robe and slippers. Standing in front of her were 2 plainclothes detectives and, between them, Marvin Holloway alive, fully alert, and silent. Witnesses reported that Camille froze in the doorway for 2 to 3 seconds before physically collapsing to her knees. One officer reached forward to stabilize her, while the other issued the formal arrest notification. "Camille Holloway, you are under arrest for solicitation of capital murder, attempted insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit murder." Camille offered no resistance. She was handcuffed on the spot and placed in the custody of the Travis County Sheriff's Office. Inside the home, officers executed a signed search warrant. The scope of the warrant included all physical and digital materials connected to the planning and attempted execution of the crime. Items recovered during the search included the glass vial previously provided by Keyshawn Porter, now empty and stored in a bathroom drawer, Printed life insurance claim forms, partially filled out and bearing Camille's handwritten notes. A paper schedule listing Marvin's work rotation, site arrival times, and projected return dates. Draft documents outlining projected business expenses for a food truck operation in Houston. Camille's mobile phone, which contained text messages, browser history, and voice recordings related to the case. Among the most significant digital evidence were voice notes sent to Keyshawn in the days leading up to Marvin's staged death. In one, Camille stated, "He drinks it fast. Just make it clean." Another recording captured her saying, "It clears in 12, right? That's what you said." Both files had been forwarded to law enforcement days earlier, but their recovery from her personal device served as independent confirmation. Camille was transported to the Travis County Jail for processing. She declined to speak with officers during initial interviews and requested legal representation. Her Miranda rights were formally read and acknowledged. Bail was denied pending a formal indictment. Marvin did not participate in the arrest physically beyond appearing at the door. After returning to the station, he remained in a secure location for the duration of the operation. He declined media interviews and requested that no photographs or press statements be made on his behalf. According to officers, his only request was to see his son. That afternoon, Child Services confirmed that Marvin was the legal custodial parent and had no legal restrictions on visitation or housing. Elijah was returned to his father's care the same day. A formal custody review was initiated through family court. The state of Texas formally indicted Camille Holloway on multiple felony charges, including solicitation of capital murder, attempted insurance fraud, and criminal conspiracy. The indictment was issued by a Travis County grand jury based on evidence collected during the undercover operation and subsequent search of her residence. Public interest in the case escalated rapidly once the details became known. The fact that a wife had attempted to orchestrate her husband's death while he was alive and later appeared at her own front door was regarded as unprecedented within the jurisdiction. Camille's arraignment was held on October 5, 2021. The hearing was broadcast by local news outlets, and courtroom attendance was limited due to media requests and security concerns. Camille appeared in standard county-issued attire. She entered a plea of not guilty. Her legal team, led by a court-appointed public defender and one private consultant, argued that she was suffering from emotional instability, with specific reference to postpartum depression. The defense maintained that Camille's behavior had been influenced by Keyshawn Porter and that she lacked the mental clarity to form criminal intent. The prosecution, led by the Travis County District Attorney's Office, rejected that framing. Over the course of a 2-week trial, the state presented digital, physical, and testimonial evidence that demonstrated Camille's role in initiating, planning, and attempting to carry out a murder-for-profit scheme. The evidence included full message history between Camille and Keyshawn, including texts referencing the life insurance policy and coded language regarding Marvin's death. Audio recordings made during the operation, in which Camille explicitly requested that Marvin be given a clean solution and confirmed that he would consume the contents quickly. Screenshots and downloads from Camille's device showing life insurance forms, rig schedules, and relocation estimates. The empty vial recovered from her home matched to the one delivered by Keyshawn under police supervision. Keyshawn Porter testified under a formal agreement of immunity. On the stand, he described his initial relationship with Camille as flirtatious and casual. He acknowledged the affair but denied any interest in harming Marvin. When asked to describe the turning point, Keyshawn stated, "I thought we were just messing around. But then she started planning things like she'd done it before." He described in detail the day Camille handed him the thermos and thanked him for being real. He also confirmed that, had he not gone to the police, Camille likely would have followed through. The court viewed video footage taken from the identification room at the Bastrop County Medical Examiner's office. Jurors were shown Camille standing over Marvin's sedated body and confirming his identity. The prosecution emphasized that Marvin had volunteered for the procedure under controlled medical supervision to confirm whether Camille would carry out the plan. Medical experts testified that the sedative used was standard in clinical simulations, non-lethal, and fully reversible within a short time frame. Camille's expression as she watched the video in court remained neutral. She did not react outwardly or respond to whispered commentary around her. Marvin Holloway testified briefly. His appearance was reserved and factual. He was asked to describe how he learned of the plot and why he agreed to participate in the ruse. He told the court, "It wasn't about the money. She wanted a future where I didn't exist." His testimony was followed by an expert witness in digital forensics, who presented a spreadsheet recovered from Camille's device. The file, titled postmarvin.xlsx, contained budgeting information, a list of apartment rentals in Houston, childcare costs, and financial projections for a mobile kitchen business. The defense attempted to downplay the document, arguing that it was speculative and did not constitute a plan for action. However, the prosecution responded that its contents matched Camille's earlier conversations with Keyshawn and aligned with her immediate actions following Marvin's staged death, including her insurance inquiry and appointment scheduling. Closing arguments were presented on October 18th. The prosecution concluded with the statement, "This wasn't desperation. This was design. She didn't break down. She made a decision." The defense reiterated claims of emotional distress and lack of criminal history, asking the jury to consider the psychological context of Camille's actions. On October 25, 2021, Camille Holloway was formally sentenced in Travis County District Court. She was found guilty on all charges: attempted capital murder, solicitation of murder, attempted insurance fraud, and conspiracy to commit a felony. The judge, citing both the premeditated nature of the crime and the presence of financial motive, imposed a sentence of 35 years in the Texas Department of Criminal Justice, with no possibility of parole for the first 25 years. The courtroom remained quiet during sentencing. Camille showed no visible reaction. Her attorney made no final remarks. Marvin Holloway was not present. He submitted a written victim impact statement but declined to read it aloud. The contents were not made public. Custody of Elijah Holloway, then 19 months old, was immediately and permanently transferred to Marvin. A no-contact order was issued against Camille, prohibiting any form of communication with her son during the term of her incarceration. The order included letters, phone calls, and third-party messages. Family court documents confirmed Marvin's full parental rights without restrictions. Keyshawn Porter was released from legal proceedings under the terms of his immunity agreement. He was not charged with any crime. Following the trial, he relocated to San Antonio and obtained a legal name change. Court records were sealed regarding the change, and he has not spoken publicly about the case since his testimony. Camille was transferred to the Christina Melton Crane Unit in Gatesville, Texas, a state facility designated for female inmates serving long-term sentences. Her intake documents listed her occupation as unemployed and her prior education as high school diploma. Within her first year in custody, Camille filed 2 appeals. Both were denied by the Texas Court of Appeals without hearing. No further filings have been submitted to date. The duplex on Holtz Drive, where the Holloways lived during the events of the case, was foreclosed on and repossessed by the lender. After sitting vacant for several months, the structure was deemed unfit for renovation and demolished in early 2023. The lot remains undeveloped. Marvin Holloway left Austin shortly after the conclusion of the trial. He relocated to the Dallas area, settling in a quiet suburb near his sister's residence. He has maintained full-time employment with a local logistics firm and has not given any press interviews. All media requests related to the case have been declined. In a written statement submitted through his attorney, he requested that no books, documentaries, or dramatizations be created using his name, likeness, or family history. According to neighbors and school staff, Marvin remains active in his son's life and keeps a low public profile. A framed photograph reportedly hangs above Elijah's crib in a new homemade picture of Marvin and his son at a local fire department open house. Below it, a printed caption reads, "I lived. He still has me." For law enforcement officials involved in the investigation, the Holloway case became a textbook example of premeditated domestic crime disguised by routine. Officers later noted that the household gave no outward signs of dysfunction and that Camille had no prior criminal history. The case was referenced in internal training materials as an illustration of covert intent and successful undercover coordination. From Marvin's perspective, the case marked the end of his marriage and the beginning of a new chapter defined by caution and recovery. In one of his few public statements, delivered through legal counsel, he said, "She tried to take everything from me. Not just the money. She tried to erase me from the world. And I almost let her." No further charges were brought against any other individuals in connection with the case. The file remains closed, and Camille Holloway remains in state custody.